Why does the Catholic Church hate gay people? Does she? Let's take a look. Hey, if you're new to this channel, we're all about exploring how our earthly bodies reveal heavenly and divine mysteries. If you want to dive deeply into questions about what it means to be male and female in the image of God and how this reveals the meaning of the universe, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel. We're continuing our series from my book, Good News About Sex and Marriage. We're in a new chapter, Chapter 8, on questions of same-sex attraction and homosexuality. And we're looking at this question. If you're following along, we're on page 141. If you want to follow along and you don't have a copy of the book, check out the link below. Here's the question. Why does the Catholic Church hate gay people? I was born this way. That means God made me gay. And God doesn't make mistakes. All right, let's press in here. First of all, the church does not hate anyone. In fidelity to Christ, she loves everyone without exception. Also, in fidelity to Christ, the church knows that to love is to desire the person's true good. And that means inviting everyone to embrace the full truth of his or her humanity as a man or woman made in the image and likeness of God. To love someone cannot possibly mean approving of anything and everything that person might do. Love has a definition. And when we step out of the definition of love, we are definitely not loving. So really what we're getting at here is, what is the truth of the human person and what is the truth of love? Let's keep pressing in here. Of course, this is an invitation that can stir resentment. What invitation? To live the full truth of our humanity, because it challenges us to our core. And we tend not to like being challenged. My challenge to you and my challenge to myself is to let the truth of love and to let the truth of our humanity challenge us, right? Ask any question you have. Throw every question up against the truth. The truth is not afraid of our questions. The question is, are we afraid of the truth? We shouldn't be. The truth sets us free, right? In that resentment, when we're challenged to embrace the truth, it's easier to level accusations against the church than it is to look honestly at the church's proposal. And that's what we're trying to do here. I'm not here to impose anything on anybody. I just want to propose to you what the church proposes so that we can give it a fair hearing. We've been unfolding this proposal in lots and lots of videos. And here's the basic proposal when it comes to human sexuality. There was an original, beautiful plan that God had for making us male and female. To put it in the biblical expression, there was an original plan and we have fallen from it. This original plan was that the holy communion of man and woman, the two in one flesh, was a sign in this world of God's eternal life-giving love. God himself is an eternal exchange of life-giving love. The Father from all eternity is generating the Son in the power of the Holy Spirit. And it's as if the Trinity had a conversation amongst themselves and they said, let's make a creature in our image. Male and female, he created them and he blessed them with the power to generate new life. Generation. That's why God gave us genitals. God's love is generous. It generates. That's why God gave us genitals, and that's the origin of the meaning of the word gender. That Greek root gen means to produce, to give birth to. Gender, in the original meaning of the word, means the manner in which you generate new life, and that's determined by the genital difference, male and female. He created them, and he blessed them, and he said, be fertile. In other words, our creation as male and female, the whole mystery of human sexuality, and the call of the two to become one flesh, is to be a sign in this world of the eternal generating power of the Trinity. This is who we are. This is who God made us to be in the beginning. And there's an enemy who doesn't want us to know this about ourselves. There's an enemy who has blinded us to the true plan of God for our sexuality, because if we live it, it's going to launch us like a rocket into the mystery of the Trinity, into heaven. And there's an enemy who doesn't want us to reach heaven, right? This enemy wants to keep us from this heavenly joy. And he's gotten in the mix here, and he's convinced us that God's design for our lives was not to be trusted. So each of us has gone his or her own way. That's the proposal of the Catholic Church, that the way the world is today, the way we experience sexuality today, is not the way God made it to be. Now, this person who submitted this question to me saying, God made me gay and God doesn't make mistakes. The second part is absolutely true. God does not make mistakes, but we do. And that's the point. The biggest mistake we have ever made was the mistake of failing to trust God's plan for our lives. As a result, we now live in a fallen world. And if we're honest here, we have to recognize that when we say we live in a fallen world, it doesn't just mean that that fallen world is out there somewhere. It doesn't just mean something's wrong out there. If we're honest, we got to look deep inside and recognize that something is wrong in here. Something has gone off in here. It's not just those people. Something is off in each and every one of us. And that brokenness, that thing that is off, it's manifested in a very particular way in our sexuality. The enemy is after the most valuable things, right? If you want to know what is most sacred in this world, if you want to know what is most sacred in our humanity, you only have to look at that which the enemy most violently attacks and which he most violently profanes. That's where we're going to find what's most valuable. And the church is proposing to us, and it's a serious proposal that we should take seriously, that there's an enemy who's screwing with us here. There's an enemy who doesn't want us to know who we really are as men and women made in the image and likeness of God. If that's true, we should want to know about it. And we should also want to know the good news that Christ came into the world to restore creation to the purity of its origins. The beginning, before sin, is the norm for a proper understanding of how God made us. Hence, Christ's proclamation. Remember, the Pharisees come to him. They ask him about divorce. Is it okay for a man to divorce his wife? And Jesus says, in the beginning, it was not so, right? And what Jesus is saying here is not just true for divorce, right? What Jesus is saying here can be applied to anything that concerns manifestations of our broken, fallen humanity. If there's anything we can say about erotic attraction to one's own sex, we can say this: with Christ, in the beginning, it was not so. Something has gone wrong here. Something has disoriented in each and every one of us, not only in those who experience same-sex attraction, but in each and every one of us, something has disoriented our sexual desires. God's plan in the beginning for sexual desire was to love in the divine image, freely, totally, faithfully, and life-givingly, right? Free, total, faithful, fruitful love. As we've been saying for so long in the videos on this channel, this is God's plan for sexual desire, and this is what marriage is. It's God's plan for living out a free, total, faithful, fruitful, life-giving, generative love. This is God's plan in the beginning for our sexuality. That's how we experienced it in the beginning. That's why man and woman were both naked and felt no shame. But again, this is the proposal. Take it or leave it. Something has gone wrong in the way each and every one of us experience sexual desire. We are all, in one way or another, all of us are sexually disoriented. And it's okay that we're broken here because there's a solution. But it is not okay to call our brokenness health. It's okay that each and every one of us, in one way or another, we are disoriented here. It's okay because there is a solution. Christ came into the world to restore creation to the purity of its origins. But it is not okay to point to our sexual brokenness and say, this is the way God made me. The inclination towards erotic relationships with one's own sex is just one thing in a very long list of inclinations that, as St. John tells us in his first letter, come not from the Father, but from the fallen world in which we live. Remember St. John, this is 1 John 2, 15 to 17. He's talking about the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. He says, these come not from the Father, they come from the fallen world in which we live. So it's not correct to say, God made me this way. If we want to understand how God made us, we have to go back to the beginning. We're all in the same boat here. We are all fallen. Fallenness manifests itself differently in different people. But there is no human being who is not in need of the redemption Christ came into the world to win for all of us. Again, here's the good news. I quote the Catechism here. Jesus came to restore creation to the purity of its origins, right? So long as we justify our broken humanity, so long as we say things like, this is the way God made me, we close ourselves off to the beautiful plan that God has to remake us in Jesus Christ. As St. John Paul II observes, and I quote him here, if we are to live as the men and women God made us to be, we must rediscover the lost fullness of our humanity and want to regain it. My brothers and sisters, I know that this teaching of the church in particular is difficult, and we're touching on some really sensitive stuff. Whether you personally experience same-sex attraction or not, there's hardly anyone in the modern world who's not touched by this because of someone near and dear to them. I promise you this, as we continue this conversation, we're going to enter in with delicacy, with compassion, with sensitivity, but we're going to proclaim the truth in love. When love is disconnected from truth, it's not loving. And when truth is disconnected from love, it's not the truth. We have to hold the two together. I have so much more to share with you. I look forward to future videos. In the meantime, if you're interested in ongoing formation in what the Theology of the Body Institute offers, check the links below. Until next time, may our eyes continue to be opened to the hope that Christ holds out to us of living the full truth of who we really are as men and women made in the image and likeness of God.